So before the video starts, I know that the Home Depot stuff is out and I should probably make a video on that. But I just have a bunch of video ideas going on right now at the same time that I really want to get out. I think this is the main one I really want to do. And also, yes, this will cover leaks quite a bit because, the whole thing is about this year of animatronics and themes. And, yeah. Hey, the Son of the Road haunts. And today, I'm talking about something that is a little disappointing. And this will be a way longer video, because, it's just gonna take a while. But it's just about how I think Spirit can redeem themselves. And I know that's sounding really dramatic. Like, no, Spirit didn't kick a dog, or, say any offensive slurs to the best of my knowledge. But as you know, everybody with the past few years has been getting really disappointed with Spirit's lineup. This year is a big one on that front. Everybody's just going over to Party City and Home Depot to get their props now. And it's just, I want to look at how Spirit can fix this. Because, I do feel like there are a lot of problems with their props and themes, so I'm going to cover those. And mind you, I'm just covering the props themselves here, like what makes them, what they say, what they do, what they look like. This is not about quality. I've made a video that I'm showing here, which is probably one of my favorite videos I've made, not to toot my own horn, just going in depth on props that are really not doing well on pricing and quality, and how Spirit can, fix themselves, just like this one, so, yeah. So, the first thing here I feel like Spirit could really have used to make this lineup a lot better, in my opinion, is just being a lot less lazy. And this is just because a lot of the props this year feel very thrown together. Mind you, there are some that do feel very, lots of thought were put into them, lots of, design. For example, Nozzles. He feels like someone actually sat down to think of him. Mr. Punchy, even though a lot of people think he's eccentric and weird, at least he's gonna be unique, so, that's still pretty good. But what I'm talking about are the stuff like this Lil Skelly Bones remake type thing, that are just really, lazy looking, and they just don't feel fully, good. They do feel just like a forced attempt for people to just have. Now, another one, the elephant in the room, is Young Crouchy. This is a really bad, lazy prop. I'm not sure why they thought people would like this, why they thought people would buy this. So I think if they just take these lazy props out, Bag of Bones included, because he just feels totally slapped together, like they didn't really care. So if they just take lazy props out, put more thought into what their animatronics will do. When I'm saying lazy, even some of the concepts, for example, again, something like Nozzles, he's unique and we haven't seen something like that much before. But even something like the Possessed Pumpkin, even though he does look really cool in my opinion, it's still just a basic thought of, big pumpkin cool. Now, I don't have a problem with that, Mr. Howl and Mr. Dark have those kind of mindsets behind them, but it's just, I don't know, I'd like to see a lot more original, unique props. Number 2, less about the lineup itself, but I'm still pretty peeved about this. Actually bringing back the props people want. They were good with this in 2020 and 2021, but somehow in 2022, there were 2 props that everyone wanted both last year and 2020. So, they had a lot of time to gather people on these, which were Pumpkin Nester and Barnyard Butcher. We don't know if they'll be online, we don't know if they'll be in stores, but even if they are online, these are the 2 props everybody wanted. So, it doesn't make sense for them to not have them in themes. Like, Barnyard Butcher, sure, he's a little gory and scary, little out of the, Spirit usually likes to do nowadays. But Pumpkin Nester? Like, I don't get it. But that's a topic for another day. Next, I feel like one of the things that's making Spirit a lot more kid-friendly these years is the fact that they're doing a lot more talking props. Like, you see less the things that just groan or scream or even just laugh. Like, now they all have stupid phrases, and, I'm okay with talking props. I do have quite a bunch of them. I get a lot of them. But for me, it really comes down to what the phrases are. Because, for example, the Collector's a talking prop, and I think his phrases are awesome. But also, like, Peekaboo Clown was also a talking prop, and he just sucked. So, on the topic of phrases, this next part will probably be why the video is so long. But I'm going to be going over, like, every single kind of recurring prop type that Spirit has over the years. Now, obviously, I'm not going to count something like vampires, because we haven't seen any. But this is just going to be going over, like, the props that we see every year, such as clowns and scarecrows, and analyzing why they might not be doing so hot now, and how they can fix them. So without further ado, let's get to that. The first thing I'm going to be addressing is clowns. Now, this will be a lot longer of a segment, because I have a lot to say for clowns. They're really messing them up as of late. They've gotten some good, but there are a lot of generic crap ones. So the first thing I think, and this was pointed out in a video by Logan Kaler, he makes an amazing point that I totally agree with. We should just ban SVI from making clowns, because they just make the most boring props you've ever seen, in my opinion. Now, I do like quite a bit of SVI props, but when you look at all the clowns they've made, they're all, well, most of them are really generic and boring, especially on the phrases front. Now, yeah, something like Peekaboo Clown has the digit eyes and stuff, but his phrases sucked, and they just don't look as unique, and I don't know, I feel like SVI should just really steer clear of that, in my opinion. We've seen what Crazy Crate and Techie Design can do for clowns, and it's really good. Like, they can really cook when it comes to that, but I don't know, at least SVI clowns should just be a lot less common. The next thing is what makes a good clown's phrases. Obviously, there can just be laughing. I'm okay with that. Some clown props do that, and I find them freaky as hell. Now, obviously, we don't want all clowns just laughing purely, but, that's, in my opinion, if they did more of those, I wouldn't have the biggest problem. But when it comes to phrases, and I've said this a bazillion times, I've said this in almost all my videos covering clowns, but I feel like the way to make a clown actually really scary is to have scary phrases. Like, in my opinion, they should still be referencing violence or just be really freaky and, disturbing. So, I do think that's quite a big part of it. But, here's the thing. If you make a purely scary clown prop, like, just scary, no giggles or laughs, then it's more fit for a psychopath and I will cover those in a little bit, but it's just more fit for a psychopath that looks like a clown rather than clown prop themselves, which is just, it doesn't really make sense for it to be a clown then. Why not just throw a mask on the same guy, and boom, there you go. But we also can't have them to be too goofy and just jokes, because, they're really, um, they can go really bad with that, for it to just be cute and funny and, like, whoa. For example, Peekaboo Clown. I keep ragging on him in all my videos, but that's because I hate him, personally. His phrases are just too goofy, and he's not a scary prop. And they're just starting to all blend in. If you want to see some really generic clown phrases, just go over to Sunstar, to almost any of their clown props, because they all have the same phrases. Those ones really suck, in my opinion. So if they combine these, I think some good examples are something like Whack-A-Mole, where I do still like the playfulness in his phrases of like, who wants to step up, be the first person on your block to get whacked, but he still feels very unhinged and freaky and like dangerous to be around. I mean, if you look at any popular clowns in the media, 3 of my favorite horror films of all time, their crux is clowns. So, like, for example, The Killer Clowns from Outer Space. In my opinion, as goofy as this movie is, and I love it for that, it does have some genuinely creepy moments. Like when the clown's gesturing the girl out, or, using Officer Mooney as a hand puppet. So they can still be really creepy. But, like, they're also goofy sometimes. Like in that whole police station scene, like squirting the, water in the officer's face. Hilarious. It's amazing. So, I feel if you get freaked out by a clown, mid it being scary as hell, that adds another layer of scariness, just because it's so freaky and just weird. Another example, I think, is Art the Clown from Terrifier. Now, obviously, this guy's a little more vicious than the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, if you've seen Terrifier. And he's a really freakily done clown. He's just terrifying because of what he does. But if you look at the pizzeria scene or something, the way he acts and just, like, uses his face to just be super unsettling is really good. And plus, in the middle of, like, around the ending, when he's chasing the final girl, it's a really intense scene, obviously. So when he does something stupid, like just honking his horn at her through the door, I find that to get a weird chuckle, which, again, is a very weird juxtaposition, given what's going on in the scene. So I just think that that's super creepy. So if you get a clown to be scary and freaky, but still kind of goofy and, like, entertaining at the same time, that's going to be downright terrifying, in my opinion. So that's the direction I think Spirit could go in there. And I'm not done. I still got 2 more points for clowns. I said this would be a very long, part of the video. But that's just because they're so flawed. But I think the second thing they could do is the third, is make a lot more human clowns. We've seen a lot of monster ones lately, which if you have one with cartoony proportions and really weird and odd, like Whack-A-Mole, for example, I do think that can work pretty well. I do like it here and there. I personally really liked Funzo the Clown from HalloweenCostumes.com. Don't kill me! But yeah. But if we see more human props, like Silent and Deadly, or like Waving Wally, they're also super creepy because there's just an added layer of evil to someone who's human, being like a serial killer or something. So I do think we should see more of those, in my opinion. I personally really hate the mixture, which is something like Towering Clown, which is still supposed to look like a monster, but still kind of human. But yeah. And the final pointer I have for how they can fix clowns is to get more diverse with them. In their color palettes, like if we get some black and white ones, like Art, that could be really good. But also, they could just get more loose with what a clown is. Because we've always seen them in the colorful jumpsuits and stuff. Like, we could see some in suits or shirts. For example, like, that Teary the Clown that Home Depot has this year. That's a really good example of what I'm talking of. And like mimes, for example, too. They can also be super creepy, given the right circumstances, and they're still kind of clown-like. Fire breathers, for example. I'd love to see one for that, like maybe with a melting face or something. Even if you go really stretch the definition of what a clown is, like the grabber from the Black Phone, at least when you first see him fully without the mask, he's still kind of a clown. Yes, he's technically a magician, but even the way he acts, he's just all, like, goofy and, like, silly, and then he goes and ups and kidnaps a kid. So they could just get really loose with the definition of what a clown is. So I've spent way too long talking about them right now. Jesus, 9 minutes. So I'm gonna move on to the rest of the kind of props they keep doing. So the next one here is zombies. Now, one thing is, for their phrases, I'm gonna simply just say no. Don't do phrases on zombies. I think they're perfectly great with just screaming or groaning. I think that's pretty much all they need. I don't want phrases on a zombie. Please. For example, the bog zombie, I'm getting a little worried about that, because I really hope it does not do phrases. So, yeah. Phrases are a big no-no on zombies. Now, how about the looks and animations? In terms of animations, I think we're doing pretty fine. And in terms of looks, though, I think they should be more bloody. Now, we don't have to go all 28 Days Later Rage Zombie, even though I would love that. I'm sure a bunch of people would buy that. Even, like, a licensed 28 Days Later prop, maybe with, like, puking blood. But I'm off topic. But, just a little bit more blood, like the older zombies. Now, of course, if they do want to go for the occasional, like, Day of the Dead classic zombie look, then I guess they can. I don't have too much of a problem with that, with moderation. But I think we should go for a lot more bloody props, just in general, but also just zombies. For example, like Punctured Pete or Jerry, they are infected. But as you can see, their faces are really clean. And just, they're very, like, I don't know how to describe it, but they just look really clean. Not enough tears or, like, blood, in my opinion. I don't think zombies need change as direly as clowns, but I still think they could use some. The next group of props I have here are demons. Now, we're not seeing too many of them, which I think should change, because I love demons. They're awesome props. And I do think we've seen some good steps in the right direction. So, firstly, in terms of looks, what I think is a big thing is I think they should make a lot less props, where they just have a Reaper, maybe throw it in red, give it some phrases about the underworld, and there you go. That's it. That's a demon now. Even if they add horns, that's a little better, but it's still, like, that's not quite up my alley and not quite what I want. Personally, I know this is a little touchy since it gets on religion and stuff, but I'd like a lot, like, more satanic-looking demons with the whole goat heads and the, like, maybe pentagrams would take it too far, but I'd love to see those. And Baphomet was a really good step in that direction. Now, even though he was still skeletal, he had that, like, weird ram skull with the two horns. That's a great step. But if we had the fully fleshed, like, goat heads, that could be really cool. Also, Forest Demon was another great example of demon props, because he had the goat-like eyes, he had the beard, he had the wings, the horns. He was a really good example, and he should really return. So, I think that demons don't need as much change. They should still be coming, but, I just think that they really need, some love. So the next thing I'm gonna focus on here is Reapers. Now, Reapers don't need as much change in my opinion as well, but I do still feel like there are some things. Feel the looks for modern day Reapers are pretty okay. I don't mind them. They're perfectly fine. I would like a little more unique stuff, like ripping Reaper of Souls, but the main problem I have with them, again, lies in the audio. I feel like if you just look up a random audio of, if I show you a random audio of a Reaper prop, I bet you could not pinpoint which one it was, because they all sound the same, and they're all just very generic. Now, what can they do to fix these? I think the Ripping Reaper of Souls from 2009 is a perfect example. The way the jump scare works with a really creepy chest of souls, the way his phrases are just very, like, freaky, and I'm 13 now, so I can get into the whole deep and, like, dark, nihilistic, edgy, and I know that's super cringy, but I'm gonna get into that. For Reaper phrases, when you think about death, no one really knows what's after it. But from what we know, it's just a dark abyss. And that's really freaky. If they dive into the whole nihilism of that, which I know they're not gonna do, because, like, these are just Halloween props, you don't want them giving you existential crises. But, like, even if they focus less on your soul is mine and more about the dark abyss, then that could be really good, in my opinion. Or, like, the way the Ripping Reaper Souls just says, you think the dead rest in peace? Think again, and rips open his chest. That's super creepy and just grim to think about. Like, that's where you're going when you die. Even if they don't focus on the souls, even though they are Reapers and their whole job is souls, even if they focus on how, like, your face is gonna be eaten by maggots when you're in the ground, like, that could still be really cool. Sorry if I got a little cringy there, or, you know, a little dank and depressing, but, you know, that's just personally what I'd like to see. So the next one here is Scarecrows and Pumpkins. And I don't feel like these need as much change as some of the others. Because I don't mind them. Firstly, their looks, I think, are fine. We're getting a lot of really cool Scarecrows and Pumpkins as of late. So, you know, looks, I'm gonna say, they don't have to change. But for phrases, I would love to get less soul talk. I really hate soul talk in props. Again, as I mentioned with Reapers, the kind of generic, your soul is mine, that also just does not work for Scarecrows, because why the hell are they doing that? I would like a lot more violent talk. I mean, if you look at, like, the thrashing Scarecrow from Party City, he's pretty tame on looks, his animation's pretty freaky, but dear God, his phrases are just, like, go and find a demo of him and watch it, because, Jesus. The phrase writers there were definitely had a bad day or something, because, damn. Like, if we get more of those, I think that could be really cool. And again, for Scarecrows, I think their audio can just be better with screaming or laughing. I don't think they need phrases, but if they do want to go with phrases, that's something they could do, in my opinion. But they don't need to change that much, in my opinion. So the next, like, subsection here is of props that they should fix is little girls, or just general little kid props. I think they should do less of them, because I don't like them. But they do a lot of possessed little girls, and I feel that some of the more recent ones are really bad. If you want to see some good ones, go back to maybe 2019. It's the most recent year that has some pretty solid ones, but 2014 was the really big year. because they had the whole, sunken faces, glowing eyes, like jump scares, freaky phrases. And, like, if you look at Possessed Wallhanger or something, that's a really good example in my opinion. But they just don't do them very well anymore. Their phrases just have to be less cheesy in my opinion. They have, like, demons talking through them. That's pretty cool in my opinion. But, they're just pretty cheesy in my opinion. So I just think that's gotta go. And also, I know I didn't want to touch on quality, but please, dear God, Spirit, make their faces better. Because they just look so uncanny and weird now that they're just... I mean, look at some of them. They're horrendous. But little kid props, I'm just not a big fan of. But I do feel like they use those kind of changes, then, things can get a little better. Now, that pretty much wraps it all up from the, props that I want to see fixed. Because there aren't too many, like, new, unique ones coming. There are a few every year. But, so let's talk about some props that I think we should start seeing. Like, some unique props that I think people would really start buying. So, the first one that I personally really love are some original masked killers. Now, obviously, when it comes to licensed props, they love making licensed props of, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, all the greats, all the, like, slasher masked villains. And I think we should see some original ones from Spirit, in my opinion. Now, even though Barnyard Butcher is technically a scarecrow, I honestly think of him as a serial killer. Like, if they just get some things in, like, maybe blank face masks, if you know what I mean. Just general looks as well, like bloody overalls, some more pig head things, then I'd really love to see that. Like, more butcher shop type things. Great. I'd absolutely love that, in my opinion. And I do think some people would buy them as well. I can see there being a market for one. The Butcher from 2020 sold fairly well, and as well, Barnyard Butcher is getting, lots of requests to return. So that's one type of prop I'd really love to see. The next one here is kind of vague, and it goes in two directions. I'm gonna call them sick suits, which are just suits people wear when lots are sick, or, biohazards. So on one end of the spectrum is plague doctors, or Victorian Reapers, which is a term I've never heard referred to except for two Home Depot props. But if we get some more of these, like, bird masks, or, like, bird skulls, like Lord Raven, I'd personally really love that. I want to see some returning plague doctors as well. Even if they have cheesy phrases, I don't quite want that, but it'd be good for, us to see some of that, like, at all from Spirit. So I would, really love that. And on the opposite end of the spectrum is the more modern hazmats. I don't know how we haven't seen more hazmat props. I mean, everybody loves them. They are kind of like, not very versatile. Like, you're not going to put one in a circus display or something. But, I just love hazmats. Things like Hazmat Zombie or the Exterminator, I think we should see a lot more of. Like, with flamethrowers or something, that could be really cool. So just in general, plague doctors or hazmat suits, I'd love to see a lot more of. Another one I'm gonna put is just general monsters. And I'm being super vague with that, and I intend it. Now, they can go either way. Like, they can go a bunch of different ways with this one. Some, like, large troll-type things with clubs, I think could be really cool. Like, large, crouchy-sized things. Mutants are another thing in this, thing, like, whole idea. More, like, skinny demon things like the Rake, I'd love to see. Even some, like, furry things like Fluffy from Creepshow, I'd also like to see, but just general monsters and beings that are just unique. They can go anywhere they want with this, in my opinion, as long as they're not, you know, purple and green Ooga Booga kids monsters, because I don't really think we need those from Spirit. I just really like to see. I personally find a lot of things in the metaphysical like a little less scary than the things that are just flesh and blood will tear your arm off. So I just love some of that. We're getting close to the end. Now that we've covered animatronics, I would like to have a look at the themes and how they should change. And honestly, unpopular opinion, maybe unpopular, I think the themes are going in a great direction. Like, they're getting really good. The concepts are getting a little more unique and fitting a little more props. They're getting very interactive and immersive, which I love. The only thing, well, there are two things I want. One is I wish they were just a tad bit scarier. And so, you know, just a little more dark, maybe less colorful lighting, and a little less cartoony. But I don't fully mind where they are now with the factory and stuff. I don't have a huge problem with that. And I also lied to you. I have 3 things I want to see. The second is just, I think that the theme placement is really janky. And I think we can have a lot more better disturbing props. Because this one thing. In a video made by Grim Productions, he brings up this thing that I believe I actually commented on his channel. So, you know, ego, but it might have been someone else, and I'm just, you know, again, my ego's too big. But I do, if you look back at the old years, I mentioned this in my video of why Spirit should be scarier, the themes were at the back of the store, at least, you know, the back themes. They were at the very back, behind a few shelves. You had to go seeking out for those. And so because they're out of the public eye, you know what that means? You can put the people with their arms cut off, the serial killers, the monsters, the bloody, screamy, and no one's gonna see them unless they explicitly want to find them and go there. So I think if we just move the back theme back there, then that'll also affect the props, and they'll be a lot more scary, gory, bloody, and just more unique. Because the way they are now, they're actually closer to the middle of the store. The back theme, at least, not the front theme. The front theme can stay where it is. Which means that they have to compromise some of their props. That they have to be kind of more goofy and child-friendly as well. Which is just a very bad hole to go down, in my opinion. And so, I just think that if they move the themes back there, I think that would be way better in my opinion. So we could just see more scary props. I'd love to see 3 themes, but I know that that's confirmed not happening. We do have the side mini themes. Those don't really need to change. But the third thing that I don't have a huge problem with, but I have it if it's egregious enough, and I think everybody wants this. We need more themes that fit the props. Now, we need to be careful with this, because if you have a clown theme, then you can't throw hazmats or something in there. They're mostly clowns. And I'll save that for another video. But I feel like the key isn't, so you're going to have an island theme? Make island props, because then that's going to highly compromise on the amount of props people will, like, have. I think they just need to be more diverse themes. So, for example, there are 2 I've thought of. Number 1, a prison. I think this would be perfect, because it has all of, you know, the props that people could have. Scary clowns? Yep, they can be like serial killers. Serial killers themselves? Yep, sure. Scarecrows? I don't think so, but, you know, whatever. Seeing as they've had clowns on a boat, I think that's not the biggest problem. Like, crazy kids, yep, they fit perfectly well, you know, like juvenile detention center or something. Demons, sure, they're like possessing or telling the people to, you know, do terrible things, which are why they're in the prison. Prison's also great because it can go either in the cartoony direction if Spirit wants that, with like skeleton guards and, you know, like moving cell doors, or again, it could go in the disturbing direction like the Asylum from 2013. So I think a prison could be a very solid theme. The next one, this is going to be a weird one. Back in 2014, we had an attic theme. And so for both front and back, I'm not talking a middle theme, a creepy cellar / basement. Now look, I know most people nowadays like the more grand themes, like the factories and the labs and all that kind of stuff, you know, big structures. But a basement could really pack a punch, in my opinion. Think of all the props that could fit. Personally, I think clowns down in a basement could be freaky as all hell. Why is there a clown in the basement? What's it doing there? If they have like a dirt floor or something, that's even better. 'Cause, you know, corpses would work, like zombies. Tombstones would also work, in my opinion. Hazmats could maybe work. Scarecrows also maybe. You know, I think almost all the props would work in the basement. And it's also just perfect, because think about it. In the, like, horror and crime novels, where do the murderers always put the bodies? In the basement. Where do, you know, the like, child kidnappers in the Black Phone or something keep the kids? In the basement. Where do, like, evil surgeons perform their surgeries? In the basement. Where's one of the best places to do devil worship? I bet you can guess. In the basement. Don't ask me how I know about that last one. It's not from personal experience. Don't ask me about that. But, you know, like, a basement could also be a really solid idea, in my opinion. In terms of interactivity, it could also be pretty good. I mean, they have, like, the boiler / furnace that could, like, fog, maybe rattle. There are a lot of shelves and boxes in basements as well, at least for mine. So you could have, like, rattling shelves. That could also be really good. Or, like, fogging, bursting pipes as well. Could also work, in my opinion. I don't know. Basements are also just really creepy. And in terms of the themes, that's just what I have. So, if you've stuck to the end, thank you for all the 3 people watching this right now. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you're new. Tell me how you think Spirit can redeem themselves and things that they should really do to get better. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.